Hi, welcome to our channel. In this lesson, I'm going to discuss the Animate UI. So here is the breakdown of what I will cover. So I will discuss first the UI layout, and then I'm going to discuss the various tools, and then I'm going to discuss the difference between a stroke and a fill, and then I'm going to teach you how to animate. But I won't cover everything about the Animate UI, only the tools that are related to frame-by-frame animation. So I will not cover twinning, I will not cover rigging, I will only cover the tools for frame-by-frame animation. There's not going to be an assignment at the end of the video, so what I would suggest is to follow along with me as I demonstrate the various tools. So it's one thing to know the tools, it's another to actually use it. So what I would suggest is to watch the video and feel free to pause and try it yourself before proceeding to continue watching the video. This video is a part of our members only lessons, so if you want to watch all of the lessons related to frame by frame, then you can join our membership by clicking the join button below. So I'm currently using Adobe Animate 2023, so when you open up the Adobe Animate, this is what you're going to see. And to create a new file, click the create new button right here, and that's going to open this window pop-up, and these are the different presets. So you'll see here different resolutions. So just click this for now, the full HD, or you could also manually, if you want, you could manually encode the resolution that you want. If you want like a square resolution, so you make this 1080 by 1080 pixels, but for now let's just keep this to 1920. And for the frame rate, let's keep this to 24. So we're gonna use 24 FPS. And for the platform type, just keep it to ActionScript 3. You don't need to concern yourself with this for now. And once that is all set, click create button. So now this is the Animate UI. And before we discuss anything else, if you go to the upper right corner of the UI, just beside this play button, this is the workspace icon. So if you click that, you'll have access to different workspaces. So what are workspaces? Workspaces are basically just presets that Adobe has made for the different UI layout. So for example, if I'm going to click Animator, that's going to change the layout a bit. So you could just think of it like the different panels being rearranged. If I'm going to click like Debug, that's going to change like the UI. So that you and I would be seeing the same thing, make sure that your workspace is set to Essentials right here. So now I'm going to discuss the different UI. So here, these are your tools. And if you see something like this, that something is being like cut off, you can just adjust or resize that certain panel. So if you're going to hover your cursor right here, it's going to change. Now I could click and drag and change it a bit right here so that this one is like pushed up, right? So now it's much like easier to select. So these are our tools. This one at the center, this is our canvas. This is where we're gonna draw. This one here is our timeline. This is what we're gonna need for animation. And this one on the right, this is the properties. So now I'm going to discuss the different tools. So let's start with the classic brush tool right here. Or the shortcut for that is B. You can just click this one or press B on your keyboard. Now I am on my classic brush tool. And as you can see here at the right side, the UI changes. That's because the properties would change depending on the active tool. So currently my active tool is the classic brush tool. So if I'm gonna click the eraser, this one would change because the properties is different per tool. So let's go back to our classic brush tool. This is what we're going to do, or what we're going to use to like draw. Now, if you want to resize your brush, there are two ways to go about it. You could adjust this one, the slider, making it bigger, or just encode that specific number, or you can use the keyboard shortcut. If you're going to make the brush smaller, that's going to be the open bracket on your keyboard. And if you want to make the brush bigger, that's going to be the close bracket on your keyboard. So let me create a circle. So next, what if once we have created a drawing, what if we want to like change the position? We want to select this. With just the brush tool, you can't select things, right? So you need to be on your selection tool. So the shortcut for that is V on your keyboard, or you could just select this icon. Now I could click things around. I could select this, and once selected, I could hold, click, and drag and position this wherever I want. So that's the selection tool. What if you want to scale this up or down? So you need a different tool for that. And so that's the free transform tool, or that's Q on your keyboard. So you need to have like an object selected first, and then press Q on your keyboard to have the bounding box appear. And now I could scale this up or down. If you want to lock the scaling to just keep the proportions of this, just hold the shift key and then scale up and down. And if you're going to hold the command key, so I'm currently using a Mac, so that's command for me. But if you're working on a Windows, that would be control key for you. So I'm going to hold the command key and just choose one of these points. And that's going to like transform just on that specific point. So if I release the command key, if I'm going to scale it, see it scales like all of the dimensions. But if I'm going to hold the command key, it's just going to scale on that specific point. So this would be useful when you're like drawing or adjusting. Next is the eraser tool. This, or the shortcut for that, is E. And just like the brush tool, you can use the shortcut. You could use the open bracket to make your eraser smaller, or the close bracket to make your eraser bigger. And this is used to erase, or you could just adjust it like here. Next is I'm going to discuss the lasso tool. This is that icon, or the shortcut is L on your keyboard. What it does is it's going to select just a portion, so you can just draw out what you want to select. So now this is the only thing that's selected. Now I could like move this around, or you could like delete it. This is also like one way to erase, like lasso, then click the back space on your keyboard. That's going to delete it. Or you could also scale this up and down. By this one's already selected. Now let's go to our free transform tool, or the shortcut is K. And I could scale this up or down. Or we could hold the command key. Again, that's the control key if you're working on a Windows computer. And then I could just scale this specific, or transform it using this specific point. Next, what if we want to color this, fill this up? It's going to be this paint bucket tool, this one, or the shortcut is K. And let's click it right here, and nothing happens, because the way the paint bucket tool works is that the drawing needs to be closed. We have an opening right here, so it's not really going to color. So we need to close this first. So I'm going to go back to my brush tool, or the classic brush tool, that's B on my keyboard. And then I'm just going to close the gap. And then I'm going to go back again to my paint bucket tool, or that's K on my keyboard. And then click, and now that's filled up. So I'm just going to undo this. To undo, that would be Command Z on your keyboard. If you're working on a Windows computer, that would be Control Z. Now, if you want to change the color, it's these two, right? So this one is the fill color. This one is the stroke color, and more on that later. So I'm going to click this, and then we could change whatever color that we want. But if you want like a specific color that's not on the default swatches, you can click this icon right here, and that's going to open up this window. And now you can pick that specific color, or you could like encode the hex code if you know the hex code for that specific color. So I'm going to click OK and then click here. So I'm just going to undo this again. Now, if you want to select a color or choose a color that's already present on your current drawing, you need the eyedropper tool, this one, or the shortcut for that is I on your keyboard, and then click the color that you want. So I'm going to click this, and you'll see that this one changed to the color that I selected. Now I'm going to press K again so that I'm back on my paint bucket tool, and then click this. So the last tool that I'm going to discuss is the paintbrush tool. So this is the classic brush tool. The shortcut is B. What I'm going to show you is the paintbrush tool. So currently you can't see it here because actually some of the tools are hidden. So if you're going to click this three dots right here, you'll see now all of the tools. So one of the tools that's hidden here is this one. This is the paintbrush tool, or the shortcut for that is Y. So I'm going to press Y on my keyboard, and this is the paintbrush tool. And I'm going to discuss the difference between the paintbrush tool and the classic brush tool, or what's the difference between the stroke and the fill. So now I'm going to discuss the difference between a stroke and a fill. So let me clear up the canvas. So I'm going to zoom out a bit. I think you already know how to zoom out, but just in case you don't, that's going to be Command minus on your keyboard. Or if you're working on a Windows computer, that's Control minus. So I'm working on a Mac, so that's Command minus for me, right? And to zoom in, that would be Command plus. If you're working on a Windows computer, that would be Control plus. And also here, there's this 50%. You could also like manually change this to 100. Or if you want to just fit the whole canvas on this window, that would be fit in window, right? So now we have like, we could see now everything. Now let me just clear this up. So I'm going to press V on my keyboard so that I could select all of these. So now these are selected. And then I'm going to press backspace on my keyboard. And that would clear things up. Now let me discuss this stroke and the fill. So the classic brush tool, that's B, the shortcut is B. This one, this is what you call a fill brush. This is a fill. If I'm going to press Y on my keyboard, that would be the paintbrush tool. And now I'm going to draw like a circle. This is a stroke brush. You'll see here that the color of this is blue because this is the fill color, and the color of this is red because this is the stroke color. And the classic brush tool, the shortcut is B. This is a fill brush, so it takes the color of the fill. And the Y, the paintbrush tool, this is a stroke brush, so it takes the color of the stroke. The other difference is for the fill, right? This is a fill, and if I'm going to hover my cursor around here, you'll see that it would allow me to modify this a bit. If I'm gonna click and drag, you'll see that this is in fact a fill. But this one, this is a stroke. And the advantage of this one is I could select the stroke brush, or the one that we created in stroke, and then I could resize the stroke and change the style, and maybe change the width if you want. But for now, let's just keep this to something like that. Now let's try filling the circle that we made. So that they are identical, I'm just gonna select this and then change the color. So again, to change this is a stroke, this isn't a fill. So to change this color, I need to change the stroke color and change this to blue. So now they are identical, right? And now I'm going to fill this one. So I'm gonna press K on my keyboard, or click this icon. This is the paint bucket tool, and then fill this up and also fill this up. Now the difference is, because we are using, this one is a fill brush, right? And then we filled it. So now they are both fill. It's fill on fill. It's like they are now merged into like one, and the color is also the same. So now they become like one object. I cannot anymore erase the fill because now they have merged into one. But since this one is a stroke and there is still like a difference, this one here inside is a fill, so I could actually just bring that out, right? And this one is a stroke, so I can select both of these, and this one has a fill and a stroke, so meaning I could still change the stroke and maybe change this to red. And that's the difference if you're going to like fill. This one is fill on fill, and this one is fill on stroke. But if the fill color, or if the fill brush is a different color and the one inside is a different color, it doesn't merge into one. So let's do that. I'm just gonna undo this. So for example, I'm going to press K on my keyboard. That's the paint bucket tool. And then I'm gonna change this fill color because I want to fill this with red. And then I'm gonna press V on my keyboard. That's the selection tool. I could now select this one inside because they're not like merged visually. They're not the same color. And I could like separate this. But this one is still like a fill. So now I'm going to fill this up with the red color. So I'm going to press K on my keyboard and then change this to red. So now they are identical. The other like use case of like using a fill brush or a stroke brush is that when you go to your eraser tool, this one, or that's E on your keyboard, and if you go here in your properties, make sure the tool is selected, right? And here, this icon, if I'm gonna click this one, it would actually allow me to erase differently. By default, the erase normal is clicked, but you could actually set the eraser to only erase the lines or only erase fills. So if I'm going to click this erase lines, since both of these are fill, nothing happens. And if I'm gonna erase it here, because this one is a stroke, this one is a fill, only this stroke is being erased. Now, if I'm gonna change this to only erase fills, because both of these are fill, both will be erased. And in here, if I'm going to erase this one, the stroke is intact, but only the fill is being erased. So you might be asking, so what brush should we use? Should we use the classic brush or the paintbrush tool? So the answer is it depends. So in my experience, so I'm just gonna share you like how I use it, is that by default, I really start with the classic brush. The shortcut of that is B, this one, because I just like how it feels when it draws. It's just more intuitive for me. But when it comes to like shading and coloring, I'm like mixing the paintbrush tool with the or I'm mixing the classic brush tool with the paintbrush tool, because I just need some sort of separation whenever there's like shading that I need to do, that I need them separate or I need them intact. And it's really like a good strategy to have them, because this one's a fill brush, like for example. So if I'm gonna set my eraser to just erase the line, and for example, I'm going to fill this with a different color, for example, yellow here, and then maybe orange here. And then I'm gonna press E on my keyboard and then set this to erase the line. So I could just like isolate it, right? And have that effect. So it depends on the style, but those two brushes are what I mainly use, the classic brush and the paintbrush. And what I use it for, it would depend on the kind of style that I use. Also, just an add-on, if you click the E on your keyboard, that's the eraser tool, and you'll have here like different options for your eraser, if you're going to go to your classic brush tool, the B, and if you go here, if you're gonna click this one, you'll also have like different options. This one is going to paint normally. So for example, I'm gonna paint this one and then maybe choose a color. That's gonna place it on top. But there's also an option to paint behind. So for example, I just like here, if I want to fill this with like color or fill that with like, I'm just gonna choose a random color like this, and maybe like I want this one to be below. That happened because of this option, right? If I'm gonna click the paint normal, so I'm gonna undo this and paint normal, and I'm gonna do it like that. See, it's now like on top, like how it normally should. But you could also set this to paint behind. Now I'm going to teach you how to animate. So let's clear up our canvas. I'm just gonna zoom out a bit and maybe just click fit to window, and then I'm gonna press V on my keyboard and select everything, then click backspace. And then I'm gonna press B on my keyboard, that's the classic brush. I'm just gonna change this to blue, or maybe red, or maybe just black so that it's like a neutral color. And since I'm using like a very small resolution, the UI elements are very like cramped up. But you could actually, for example, the properties panel, you could see here this double arrows. You could actually collapse this one if you don't need it as of the moment. So it's going to collapse like that. If you need it again, just click this one and that's going to expand. And going by that logic, you could also see that this one right here, you have like different set of options that you could also expand if you want. Just click this and that's going to expand this panels. But I don't really use this. I mainly just use the properties. But for now, let's just collapse this so that we have like a bigger space. And this one is our timeline. And this one is like the scale of our timeline. So if I'm going to, because I'm using like a very small screen, I'm just gonna like bring this up, right? So that everything is big. And I'm just gonna make sure that the 1 second mark is right here. And if ever I need the properties again, I'm just gonna click this one, right? But for now, I'm good with this. And this one right here, if you look at the timeline, you have these like different squares. And you have here, this is like a gray square and then one like circle, like a dot right there. That's actually like a blank frame. So going by our like paper analogy in the previous lesson, that it's like a flip book, you can consider this as like a paper or a page, but a blank page, meaning we haven't drawn anything on this, so it's a blank page. Now, if I'm going to draw a circle right here, you'll see that this one's filled up, and now this one is like the dot is not anymore empty, but it's like blackened out. Now, what if we want to animate? So you can't have an animation with just one paper. Like if you have like a flip book, you need multiple pages to go back and forth so that there's an illusion of movement. So going by that analogy, we need another paper. How do we add a blank paper? So to add a blank frame, the shortcut is F7 on your keyboard. So if I press F7, you'll see here that there's this like gray or lighter gray. So now I actually have two papers, but the second one is blank. So if I'm gonna draw something here, now that's filled up. Now I have two frames or two pages. Now I have an animation. I could move this back and forth. Now let's add a third blank paper. So I'm gonna press F7 on my keyboard and then draw anywhere or draw whatever. Doesn't matter for now. Now I have 3 frames with 3 drawings. Now I could like scrub through and you'll see that they move. The shortcut to traverse your timeline is the comma and dot on your keyboard. The dot is going to bring you forward in time, and the comma is going to bring you back in time. So you could just click this on your keyboard and go back and forth. Or if you want to preview your animation, the shortcut is pressing Enter on your keyboard. Now you'll see that this square, this represents frames. And you'll see here that this one is 1 second. And if you recall, our FPS is 24. So that means that for like 1 second, it's going to fit in 24 frames. So let me just like finish this up until here. So I'm just not gonna make this like a good animation. I'm just gonna like create random circles and just like fill the whole thing. So now we have 24 frames. So this is now like 1 whole second. So I'm just gonna press Enter on my keyboard so you could like see the preview of this. Now, what if you want to delete frames, right? What if in the real world you want to crumple the paper and throw it away, right? What if you want to delete the frame? What if you just wanna keep these 3 frames and delete all of this? So to do that, just hold, click, and then drag to select this frames. And the shortcut to delete the frame is Shift F5. So Shift F5, that's going to delete the frame. So if you're gonna click this one and press backspace on your keyboard, you think you have deleted the frame, but you just deleted the drawing. The frame is still there, it's just blank, right? If you wanna delete the frame, you need to select the frame and press Shift F5. Now I have deleted the frame, now we only have 2 frames. It's important because even if a frame is empty, that is still being counted in the animation. So for example, I'm gonna press F7 on my keyboard. That's going to add a blank page that's inserting like a blank paper, right? I'm gonna click F7 multiple times. So I have like these number of frames, but just empty. So what happens is here, there's like animation and then it disappears because the paper here, it's empty. There's no drawing. So if you want to delete the frame, again, select the frames and then Shift F5. So next, I'm going to discuss exposing a frame. So what does that mean? That would be easier for me to explain to just show you. So if I'm gonna press this frame and then press F5 on my keyboard, that's going to expose that frame. You'll see here that you'll have like the rectangle, the gray one becomes longer. Now it consumes 2 frames. So you could think of it like this single paper is being exposed for 2 frames. And we have this like drawing. So if I go to frame 2 and draw a circle and go back to frame 1, it's still the same, right? Because I was drawing on the same paper, right? This one here, that's the same paper that's just exposed for 2 frames. Now, if I want to expose this, I'm gonna click F5 on my keyboard. Now, this one is being exposed for 2 frames. If I'm gonna press F5 again, you'll see that this specific paper with this specific drawing is being exposed for 3 frames. So to animate on 2s on a 24 frames per second would be doing it by this way. So I'm gonna click this frame, press F7 because we're gonna add like a blank frame and then draw here and then press F5. Now you'll see that this one is, one drawing is being exposed for 2 frames. So this is what it means by animating on 2s. And if you've guessed it, animating on 3s means that you just expose a single frame or a single drawing for 3 frames. So the advantage of like animating on 2s is that instead of drawing 24 drawings, you'll only be drawing just 12. But on the downside, you will have that choppy kind of feel. But in my opinion, it's more giving it a unique style to animate on 2s. But there are like some also cases that you want your animation to be super smooth, in which case that would be the time that you would use animating on 1s. So next, I'm going to discuss what if you want to insert a duplicate frame. The shortcut for that is F6. So you'll see here, right? We have like this like drawing, right? And then if I'm gonna press like F6, this part here like is now a new frame, but the drawing is the same as the previous frame. Now if I'm gonna click here and then press F6, you'll see that we have another frame with the same drawing. That is the same if I just like select this and then copy. So the shortcut for copy is Command C. If you're working on a Mac, that's Control C if you're working on a Windows. So I'm going to click copy and then press F7, and then to paste in place, that would be Command Shift V. If you're working on a Mac, that's Control Shift V if you're working on a Windows. So basically, the F6 is just that, right? It's like creating a blank frame and copying the previous one to the new one. So basically, that's just F6, right? So the advantage of that is whenever you're animating, and for example, you just want, for example, this one. So I'm just gonna like draw something here, something like that. Instead of pressing F7, and then like drawing it the same thing again, you can just press F6 and then modify the new frame. Like for example, I'm just gonna delete this and then change this expression a bit, right? So that's the like how or why you would want to use F6. So next, I'm going to discuss onion skinning. So as you can see, animating without like seeing the previous like frame or the after frame is very difficult. So for example, I'm gonna add a new, or I'm just gonna like delete this whole thing. So I have selected all the frames and then press Shift F5. Now I have no page, I have no paper, right? If you see here, I have no like, I have no frame. So that, and you also see here that for my paintbrush tool, it will not allow me to draw because I have no paper. I have no pages, right? If you look at here, there are no blank frame. So I have to click here and then add a blank frame for me to draw. And then I'm going to press F7 on my keyboard. And now let's create a like a smiley. And then I'm going to press F7. And what if I want this to just change the mouth, right? To animate the mouth. And I can't really like draw it this one in the same exact way. See, there's like a wobble. And it's hard to be consistent on your drawing. That's where the onion skin would work. This is that icon. So if you're going to click that, it would allow you now to see the previous frame. So you'll see here that I have turned on the onion skin. The one on the blue, that's the previous frame. The one on the green, that's the frame after. But currently we don't have frames after, so it's not showing anything because we don't have like a frames after. So with this would allow me to, just draw or like allow me to consistently make the drawing and maybe like change the expression of the eye and change the expression of the mouth. It would allow me to animate much easier with the onion skin. And if now I'm going to press F7 again on my keyboard. And now you could also adjust. I'm just going to expose this so that we're animating on two. So I'm going to press F5. Here I'm going to press F5. And this one I'm going to press F5. So this specific, all of the frames are being exposed for 2 frames. So you could actually like adjust the onion skin like this one. If you hover, the cursor changes. So you could like adjust this to only like reveal the frames 1 frame before, or like how many frames you want to show. So if I'm going to drag this here, that would show like both of these frames. But if I'm going to just change this one to up until here, it would only show up to this frame. So that depends on you, like how much you want to see back. Now for this one, I'm just going to like draw again. And then slightly change the expression. Something like that. And then let's have a look at the animation. So that's the animation. And now I'm just going to show you how onion skin work if you want to see the frames after. So for example, this one, I'm going to delete this, but not the frame. I just want to delete the drawing. So I have selected now the drawing, and then I'm gonna click backspace on my keyboard. Now you see here that I could see the frame after and the frame before. The frame after is in green. The frame before is in blue. And this is useful when you're doing in-betweens later. So now I'm just gonna fill up the drawing in the middle. Now, if you're going to click this icon, the onion skin icon, you will have these option and then click the advanced settings, and you will have this pop up. You could actually like customize your onion skin. Like for example, the color. What if you don't want the previous one to be blue? What if you want it to be red? You could also change this. Now you see here, this one now has like an added red color, or change this. I'm going to change this to blue again. But by default, or what I'm really used to is that the frames before is blue and the frames after is green. So we could just keep it that way. And you could also like adjust the starting opacity. Maybe for you it's too like dark. You could change the starting opacity to just like a subtle amount. So just adjust this to whatever you're comfortable with. But if you don't know what's like right or wrong, just keep it as is. So next, I'm going to discuss how to create a new layer. So this is just one layer. What if you want to create a new layer? You just click this button, and that's going to create a new layer, and automatically you'll have a blank keyframe exposed to the farthest layer that you have. So this is the farthest layer that I have. It's up to frame 6. So when I create a new layer, it's going to be a blank frame that is exposed for 6 frames. So for this second layer, so I'm just gonna zoom out. And also, just in case you're wondering, if you're, how could I pan like the screen? If you hold the space bar, it's going to change the cursor to this. So hold, click, and drag, and then move around. So that's the pan. That's the shortcut for pan. That will be holding the space bar. So for this second layer, I'm just going to create a different face. For example, something like this, and just a smile. And you could think of it like the second layer would have like its own like timeline. It would have its own like timing, separate with like the first layer. Like this one has animation. I could like add a keyframe on layer 1. So I'm gonna let's just say I'm gonna press F6 here. I'm gonna insert like a frame there, and then press F5 to expose this frame, and I'm just gonna like change again the expression. So currently my eraser doesn't work. It's because we've changed the properties of our eraser. So I'm going to expand this one and then just change it back to erase normal. So currently it is on erase lines, and this is a fill. So I need to change this back to erase normal so that this would erase. So now, as you can see here, I've added like a new frame, right, for layer 1. And for layer 2, this frame is being exposed for 6 frames, but after that, it's like gone, right? So if I'm gonna unclick the onion skin, you will see that this second layer, this one, would disappear at this point because this drawing is only exposed to until here, and this one here is empty. That's why it's gone. If I want this drawing to continue on up to this frame, I need to click this page, this paper or frame, right? I've clicked that and then press F5. Now it's exposed until here, and then F5 again so that it would match the one below. And for the second layer, I could also like add an animation if I want, and with a different timing. Like for example, at this point, at this frame, I'm gonna like insert a blank frame here so that I could add a new drawing. So I'm gonna press F7 on my keyboard, and I'm just gonna turn on again the onion skin. And then I'm just gonna like create a different pose, for example. So now it's like that. So I could like press enter, right? So this layer could have its own animation, or it could just be a single frame exposed until like the end of the animation. So I could have like create another layer here. So now we have 3 layers. So I could adjust this timeline panel, right? So that we could see the 3 layers. And like maybe like I'm just gonna add this is going to be random, maybe just a sun right here. And the sun, this one is being exposed to like for all of the animation. This one has like 2 frames, this layer has like 2 frames, and this layer 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4 frames. So let me just preview this, and now it looks like that. So just to recap, we have discussed the UI layout. We've also discussed various tools, namely the selection tool, free transform tool, the classic brush tool, paintbrush tool, eraser tool, lasso tool, paint bucket tool, and the eyedropper tool. We've also discussed the difference between a stroke and a fill. We've also discussed how to animate, and you were able to learn how to add a blank frame, how to delete frames, how to expose frames, and how to duplicate frames. You were also able to learn how to turn on the onion skin and how to add a new layer. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. Thanks, and see you in the next lesson.